When you think about your past work week and all the meetings that you had, what was the thing that you found most frustrating? As a meetings trainer and coach, clients call me because they want to get engagement and focus in their meetings. It's always the same people who do all the talking, they tell me, and they're the ones that take us off track and make us run over time. And it's always the same people who stay quiet, and we're worried we're not getting the engagement we need for really good team commitments. So what can you do to solve these problems? Well, I'd like to give you a strategy to cope. But like all coping strategies, they won't remove the problem completely. Meetings are a fact of life. And in meetings, we have people. And the moment you have people, I like to say you've actually got two meetings. You've got the meeting that you're in, and you've got the second meeting that's going on inside your head. And that's the reason we sometimes don't step in and save our meetings when they're going off track. And we're going to talk about that in the second half of the talk. So first of all, what are the coping strategies that you can do? Well, COPE stands for captain, outcome, process, and equity. Let's look at the captain. Every ship needs a captain to get it safely to its destination on time. And meeting science tells us that the meeting leader makes or breaks the meeting. The wonderful thing is that meeting skills is something that you can learn and get better and better at every time you lead a meeting, because there's no right way to do it, and you can find your own unique leadership style. O stands for outcome. If we don't know where we're going, we're likely to get lost at sea. And it's very important to articulate the outcome that you want. So if you're the meeting organizer, write down the outcome you want in the meeting invitation so that your participants can see what to expect and what's expected of them. And they can even make an informed choice as to whether to catch this ship or to stay behind this time and get on with work that they think would be more productive. The P stands for process. Like any destination, we need to know how we're going to get there. And that also takes planning. So when you're thinking about your meeting and you're planning the process, you have to ask yourself some questions. For example, if the outcome you want is a decision, when you're planning your process, you'd be asking yourself questions like, well, how are we going to reach that decision? Is it going to be a vote? Is it going to be by consensus? Or is it going to be the loudest voice wins? And it's extremely important that the captain shares that process at the start of the meeting. Meeting science tells us that when we have a clear outcome and a clear process of how we're going to get there, our stress levels go down and we can release our higher cognitive functions to really collaborate together, think creatively, and get the best outcomes for our meetings. And the E stands for equity, or equal opportunity to speak. It's no good having a few people who do all the talking while everybody else stays silent. But how do you encourage that in your meetings? Well, there are 3 steps. Listen, validate, redirect. So imagine you're in a meeting, everything's going well, and all of a sudden a couple of colleagues start having a side conversation. That's when you can bring in your listen, validate, redirect. And it looks something like this. You listen and you wait for an opening. Eventually, your colleagues are going to have to come up for air and have a natural pause, and that's when you step in with your validate piece. To do that, you ask a question to break the momentum of their conversation. And the question can be as simple as, "Can I ask you a question?" That stops them in their tracks, and you can step in with the validation piece, which is, "That sounds really interesting." And now you step into the redirect piece, which is, "Can you help me understand how what you're saying relates to the topic we're on in our agenda right now?" And you're bringing them back to the objective of the meeting without alienating them. And everybody else sighs a big sigh of relief because now you've saved their meeting. Now, when I give these tools to people, they feel very comfortable using them with their peers with a little bit of practice. But what about if the people that are having the side conversation are your superiors? What would you do then? And if you were the boss, how would you feel if your team member actually interrupted you and brought you back on track? Well, these are the kinds of questions that cause all of us to stop in our tracks because we're dealing now with the meeting inside our head. And I like to use this quote from football coach Mike Dicker. He said, "In life, you get what you tolerate." And I've changed that quote to say, "In meetings, we get what we tolerate." So why are we tolerating these kinds of meetings? Well, it's because of the meeting in our head. We don't feel that we can interrupt our colleagues, and especially not our superiors, because we're worried that we might look rude. But I think we're actually worried that we might be rejected. Our biggest fear in life is to be rejected from our tribe or our group. And so we'll do anything we can to stay in the good books. So I like to get inspiration from Elon Musk, CEO of Tesla. He wrote an email to his staff showing them how important it is for him to have a great meeting culture in his organization. And he said, "Walk out of a meeting or drop off a call as soon as it's obvious you aren't adding value. It's not rude to leave. It's rude to make someone stay and waste their time." The reason I like that quote is that it recalibrates what we mean by being rude. How would it be if it was okay not to accept a meeting invitation that didn't have a clear objective? How would it be if it was okay to cancel a meeting that was already set in time because there wasn't any need for it? As we recalibrate our future and we think about how we want to do our best work together, wouldn't it be great if we could have these kinds of conversations inside our organizations? So next time you're in a meeting, whether you're the CEO of an organization, whether you're the meeting leader, or just a meeting participant, think about how you can step in to save your meeting with the coping strategies that I've shared with you today.